What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Seoul Therapy, the podcast. My name is Daniel.
Daytona.
And today, instead of having our usual conversations about current events in the K-hip-hop and K-R&B community, we're going to be talking about our two favorite albums and expand more in depth. As usual, if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast on all streaming platforms and don't forget to give us that 5-star rating. Also, for more contents, please go and follow our socials at Seoul_Therapy. All right, so today we each picked out our two favorite albums, where one album is a bit older and one that's more recent, and we'll have an in-depth conversation. So let's go. So man, I was like digging through a lot of artists and just listening to a whole bunch of music like I always do, and it was difficult, bro. You know, it's just trying to pick out two of your favorite albums, one that's older and one that's newer. That's so hard. It's pretty much asking, like, what's your favorite burger? You know, like, do you like this burger or that burger? So, man, it was really difficult for me. I don't know about you, but for me, the two albums that I picked, and this was a really tough decision. Like, I had to really narrow this down by listening to the artists that I wanted to pick out.
Yeah.
And man, this was really difficult. So what I came to conclusion was, for the old album, I picked Deepflow's Yanghwa album, which came out in 2015. And then for the more recent album, I chose Skinny Brown's album, his first LP called Barry Loves My Mood. And it came out a couple months ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, those two albums for me really did the job. And I mean, when I say it did the job, I mean it delivered. Because if you think about it, both of the albums are very different to a certain degree. It's very different. Where
it's like a completely different subgenre.
It is because when you talk about Deepflow's album, Yanghwa, it's considered a classic. You know,
yes, it is. Yes, so, at this point, I think you can kind of regard it as Deepflow's like magnum opus.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like his staple when people talk about Deepflow, and
this is the album that they talk about.
Exactly. And it's so highly regarded. And I would think what I love about this album is how there's like a balance in the sound production. So you have some trap sounds in there, but at the same time you get a mellowed down song, and also you get like that hard hitting boom bap type sound.
Yeah.
So man, it's just a classic. I mean, when you talk about Korean hip hop, this is the album that I would recommend to people. When people ask, "Hey,"
that's a good choice.
They're like, "Hey, Daniel, what's a really good Korean hip hop album that you would recommend?" And without hesitation, I would say, "Yo, check out Deepflow Yanghwa." I mean, it just delivers on every level. Yeah. And for me, so obviously in the album there's 15 tracks in total.
Yeah,
but there are at least 6 tracks for me that stood out the most. That's a lot, you know, because when I listen to songs, I just kind of like go through it once and I just kind of pick out like my favorite ones, you know? And the 6 standouts for me, obviously, the first one is Chakdu, which is,
that's a classic track on a classic album. Like,
I mean, for real, that's literally, you can just pick Chakdu and that's it. But honestly, besides Chakdu, there's also Big Brother, which is, I mean, come on, dude. That's like another classic. But also the other one, the more underrated ones are, I would say, Wanderer. It's his solo track. And then you have...
that's number 10, right? Because I don't know the English titles of these songs.
Yeah.
Like, Yokma, right? In Korean. Yeah, that's a great track.
Was really
that's one of
good.
my favorites too.
And then that one that one is a boom bap track. So... And then you have Knock the Door featuring Dragon AT, and then also featuring Sepbyol.
Yeah.
So that one was another good one. And then New Family, which was the closing track featuring Utan and Don Mills.
Yeah, the record really ends with on a very high note. Like,
agreed.
Yeah, it's not like a mellow track. It's like, let me just give you people another banger right out of the gate.
It's almost a statement song.
Yeah,
you know?
It's like if you look at the title, like Birth of a Family, like family obviously here means this major company. Like it means VMC.
Of course.
Yeah, so it's like you get a sense of like almost a mantra kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like finally, like he is comfortable with VMC as the way it is in 2015, and I think it's like he almost really manages to like cement that, like we are family now, kind of thing.
For real, yeah. And I also like the first track, Nirvana. That had a more rock sound.
Yeah, it starts with a little bit of a Hendrixian kind of.
Yeah.
That's a great intro.
Honestly, I just love the album in general because it has a story. You can hear the pain and the struggle from Deepflow just in any of the tracks you listen to. Like you can even listen to Old Shoes featuring Taesan and Shawnee Slow, the legendary Korean rapper. But I mean, dude, all in all, it's just this whole album is especially Knock the Door featuring Dragon 18 Sephiroth. I mean, that one, it had a lot of emotion and a lot of like that trap sound. So I just kind of wondered how the producer was able to mix kind of that emotion, but also like that, you know, that mainstream trap sound that we're all accustomed to. So
actually about that, a majority of this album was produced by a person named TK.
TK is a very good producer.
Yes, he was. But you know, not Yanghwa, but Deepflow's recent album, Founder.
Yep, Founder. Yep.
Yeah, there. It goes in a completely different sonic direction. Like it goes in a more like
it has like a jazz blues.
No, it's more like a soul band, like Curtis Mayfield kind of things.
Oh
like, yeah. If you know Ghostface Killer of the Wu-Tang Clan, like
legendary.
His recent projects, a lot of his not recent actually, not anymore. If anyone knows, if you're a hip hop head, you'll know this. Ghostface Killer in the 2010s kind of worked with live bands to make his albums.
Yeah.
That's what Deepflow did with The Founder, which is the album that came after Yanghwa. But the majority of the composition was dealt with a producer named Van Ruther. But Van Ruther is actually TK.
Yep.
It's the same person. So it's almost as if he has two personas. Like he has beats that he makes as TK and he has beats that he makes as Van Ruther. So that's kind of interesting. Like, believe it or not, contrary to your opinion, Daniel, at the time of the release of Yanghwa, some people didn't actually like the production.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they thought it was like not standard trap.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, but that was during the time of the release. Like, no one says that anymore. What I'm trying to say here is Deepflow really tried something a bit newer with this album. It's not straight boom bap. It's not straight trap. But there is a certain heaviness to all of the tracks. So it's like more of a hardcore hip hop album that is not just strictly about boom bap. Like he has different takes. Like, for example, Big Brother is a trap track.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. 불구경, number 2. What's the English title on that?
Fire?
Yeah, that's number 2, right?
Yep.
Oh, the English name is just Fire?
Yeah.
Literal translation here is not actually fire. 불구경 means like looking at a fire. Like it's actually Deepflow kind of hitting everyone in the scene, like all these fake whack rappers.
Yeah.
Yeah, saying like he enjoys their house burning down kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a very like do you know the scene in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight where Joker is like set the whole mound on fire?
Oh yeah.
It's not about the money, it's about the message. It's basically Deepflow doing that on that track. It's like he's watching the thing burn, but he's kind of laughing at it. Like, haha, told you motherfuckers kind of vibe. That's what that track is about.
Interesting.
When it comes to Yanghwa, like the concept of this album, like, is very well thought out. Also, like,
for sure.
You said it has a story, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of background about that story. You know, if you have a general idea of K-pop, you know what Gangnam Style is, right?
Of course.
Yeah, Seoul is divided into 2 sections. One is Gangnam, Nam meaning south. One is Gang, Puk meaning north.
Mm.
Kang means the Han River that is flow right in the middle of like Seoul. There's a river that flows in the middle of Seoul, and Kang, and that we call it Han Kang, the Han River. Kang means river, so Kang Nam means south of the river. Kang Puk means north of the river.
Interesting.
Yeah, but Mecca, and there are many bridges on Han River.
Oh,
one of them is called Yanghwa.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Yanghwa bridge. When Deepflow says Yanghwa, it means the Yanghwa bridge.
Oh, that's where Zion T has that song. The
Yanghwa Daegyo. Exactly.
There you go. Okay.
Yanghwa is a very famous bridge. It's a bridge everyone in Seoul knows. And if you think about it, Hongdae, if you're a basic K-pop fan, you might have heard what Hongdae is.
Mm-hmm.
Hongdae is basically like the Brooklyn of Korean hip hop.
Yeah.
It's like the Queensbridge. It's like New York. Like it's the
For
Mecca.
sure.
Like when it comes to the Mecca of Korean hip hop, it's Hongdae.
Mm-hmm.
And Yanghwa in this Deepflow's conceptual album is he's trying to cross Yanghwa so that he can go to Hongdae. That's the entire concept of this album. Trying to make it to the capital of hip hop. Like because even though Deepflow was a veteran, this was released in 2015, right?
Yep.
This was a period in hip hop where it was like there was a clear distinction between major rappers and minor rappers. And Deepflow was an underground rapper.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like the album itself, it was like a kind of a documentary of a minor rapper trying to make it in a scene where there was such a huge distinction between mainstream and underground. So he's trying to make it to Hongdae. That's basically what this album is about.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you see a lot of elements of class struggle, elements of artistic compromise. Like, I'm not kind of selling out, that kind of mentality. Like, that's what makes Yanghwa interesting. It kind of talks a lot about some things like only Koreans can understand, in a sense. Like you listen to Nas Illmatic, an outsider will never fully comprehend that album because of all the slang and stuff. Like if you look at old Wu-Tang Clan records, unless you like really sit down and study what each term means, like you will never fully understand only Built for Cuban Links because of all this slang.
True.
Yanghwa is kind of like that. Like there are, like it's a very Korea-centered album, especially Seoul-centered. Like the whole imagery of Yanghwa and trying to go to Hongdae, it's like it's so Seoul,
It is. It is.
That's what makes kind of this album interesting and I guess a classic.
Oh yeah, for sure, it's a classic.
Yeah,
I mean, no doubt.
A thing though, this is not actually a good thing, I guess. This is also kind of what made so many people hate Deepflow. Because Yanghwa was, at the period of Yanghwa, when Yanghwa came out, during that period, Deepflow's persona was revolving around not selling out.
Yeah.
What a lot of people are saying that he kind of sold out.
I mean, look, there are times where things change in life, and there are times where you might want to head into a different direction and experiment on that. And
yes,
I don't think that's a bad thing, and for people to hate on him for that, it's
understandable though.
It is understandable, but at the same time, it's unfortunate because it's that person's life. You don't dictate how that person lives their life. If that person wants to go and try out to adventure new things,
but
could work.
In that perspective, like Deepflow kind of shitted on people that did that before him in this album. That's kind of what made that's the whole VMC and Justice beef. Like that started. This is the album that started this. And what's interesting is, although that's true in a sense, that doesn't quite, I guess, make this album a bad album anyway. Because
no, for sure,
like, there's a reason people call albums records. This is a record. Like this is a record. You know what I mean? Like
for sure.
Like in the sense of like a historical record.
For sure.
This is a kind of time capsule of what Deepflow was feeling at the time, and that's, I think, how people should approach music and how people should approach albums. Like, it's not like there's a mandatory need for you to remain the same person you are at the time you release that album. Although it's kind of understandable, some fans kind of saying like Deepflow sold out and not buying that, saying that they can't listen to Yanghwa anymore. That's fine. That's up to you. And the interesting is the album that came after this, Founder is regarded as a very great as a really great album too. Actually, some people actually prefer Founder over Yanghwa.
I could see that. It's understandable.
Yeah. Not even like, it's like, I guess, a ratio of 6-4.
Okay.
Yeah. If Deepflow, if there are 10 Deepflow fans, 6 of them would say Yanghwa, 4 of them would say Founder. And Founder was basically Deepflow's defense case. The entire concept of the album is showing why he had to sell out. The weird thing is his music never sold out, in my opinion, because he never.
For sure.
I know there was a feature on that Amado single, but that's really not enough for me to say that he sold out.
That's the part where I'd say that's the experimental. It's for fun. You go and try out new things. So yeah, I see where you're coming from on that.
A lot of people like rubbed it on the wrong way, but if you think about it, like the whole VMC and Justice beef started from that, but now kind of Justice is doing the same thing.
Exactly.
So like, it's almost as if it was tragic in a sense, because I never hear States rappers fight over who gets on TV or not. Like, usually when they talk about selling out, it's because they begin to make different kind of songs.
Exactly.
Not just because they went on TV. If you think about it, Deepflow never kind of changed his music. It's the medium. Like, he changed the medium.
Exactly.
Rather than his musical taste.
Exactly.
So it's like, maybe we have such a small pie that people really fight over nothing.
Yeah.
But in a way, I think I guess that's like the difference between the States scene and the Korean scene. Like,
yeah,
there are definitely, because we're doing on the same genre, there are similar things we're going to talk about, but there are differences like this. Like,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think, and all in all, Yanghwa, I think, really encapsulates a period of time in Korean hip hop, like where there was this clear divide between the mainstream and the underground. And this was like the underground side's best defense, I guess.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that not only just who Deepflow was as a person, but this album really spoke to what the underground was about in the 2015s. It's like listening to a Company Flow record.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you look at like the first Company Flow album, like, they hate mainstream rappers. The entire album is based on shit talking mainstream rappers.
I'm not even surprised.
Like, for example, if like there's 15 tracks, wait a minute, I actually can search it up. Company Flow's first album, which is one of my favorite records of all time. Wait a minute. Company Flow, 1997, Fun Crusher Plus. Yeah, that's 19 tracks.
Wow.
19 tracks. About 3 tracks, except for 3 tracks. The rest is just battle rapping and shit talking mainstream rappers selling that.
Okay.
This is a fuck. Problem is that is not what we talk about anymore a lot these days, right?
True.
Still, it's a classic. It's still a classic. Like, it encapsulates what 1997 was at the time in hip hop. And Yanghwa is kind of doing the same thing, in my opinion. So, yeah, like, regardless of all these haters and actual critics and stuff, like, it's still a classic, whether you hate it or not. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we hope nothing but the best for Deepflow moving forward. We hope, because I'm really excited what he's going to produce next. So, so moving on to my second album, which is a more mainstream, I would say, and a more kind of a a formulaic kind of trap sounding album. And it's Skinny Brown's first album, Barry Loves My Mood. And, you know, which people know he signed under Daytona Entertainment. This is an artist who is really under the radar, I would say. You know, he's kind of known, but not really known.
Yeah.
And I think that should change because I really love what Skinny Brown did here on his first album. I mean, there are 4 tracks that I really, really digged. I mean, all the songs were good, you know, don't get me wrong.
There's like 8 tracks on that album, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're all good. Maybe -1 was but 4 of them, which were the first one is called Protect You, featuring Kugi. The second one is called Misfits, featuring Mello and Kid Wine. The third one is called Titanium, and the fourth one is called Angel. Those 4 were my standouts. And look, the song Misfits, featuring Mello and Kid Wine, hands down probably the best song. I mean, I just love the vocals that were on this. I mean, forget about the sound production. The vocals, the featuring that he brought on, I mean, the artist delivered. And what I love about Skinny Brown's album is the fact that you can relate to it, and there's almost that emotion. There's a lot of emotion, and you can really tell and hear Skinny Brown's kind of vulnerability and just his real emotions that he wanted to convey in this album, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just so, I would say, in a way, it's heartwarming. I just love how there's a balance. Again, I like how there's a balance because on Angel, there's that boom bap type sounding. And then obviously a lot of them has that trap sounding and a kind of like a popish sounding too in some ways. And so, man, I have nothing but high praises for his first album. You know, I kind of went in this album thinking, okay, it might be a decent album.
Yeah.
And then obviously when it dropped and I started listening to all of them, I was just like, whoa.
That would impress.
I was like, whoa, is this really Skinny Brown? Like, am I really? Because I listened to his other stuff too, like his singles and like his other stuff that he dropped. And those were good. Those were solid. But man, he hit it off on his first album. And that's really hard to do at times, you know, for some artists. But yo, I have nothing but high praises, especially the lyrics and all of his songs. I just love how, you know, he's making his songs, but in a way that's very authentic and it's true to himself. You know, it's not like he's going out of his way to, you know, be somebody that he's not. You know, he's being true to himself, and I'm beginning to love that emo hip hop sounding. You know, that kind of like that rock sounding, and I love it because the lyrics are very relatable, especially for me, a person who's gone through, you know, a lot of, you know, mental struggles in the recent times, you know, listening to Skinny Brown or Ash Island or anybody that has lyrics that focuses on, you know, depression, mental health, and anxiety.
Yeah, I think that's like the new mantra. Like, there's this whole new wave of rappers that are very sensitive to the issue of mental health. Yeah,
it's important, man. And if you can convey it through your songs, it's even better because in ways that's helping so many people, you know?
Yeah.
And I just love how, and again, I remember when you used to talk about how Korea is not sensitive to, you know, mental health and how they need to change that mindset around, right?
Definitely.
I think what these artists in the hip hop scene is doing is really good. I love how they're not just talking about or like showing off or anything. I love how they're being very vulnerable and also making the song very, you know, exciting and good. So in a way, oh man, I have nothing else to say, but props to Skinny Brown, dude. Seriously, dude. I listen to Misfits at least 20 times a day.
One thing I kind of commend Skinny Brown about this album is, I'm not sure if I remember correctly. Let me check a bit. Like many songs these days are not even like 2 minutes long.
Exactly.
If they're long, they're like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Like that's kind of the new trend. But he has fleshed out songs on this album. I liked that. Like many like trappers or trap rappers or the emo rappers. I'm not sure if that's a term that I can still use, but if you get a gist about what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Like many of these rappers, like they make as many songs as possible and then kind of slap an album together with like songs that are like about 2 minutes and 20 seconds long or stuff like that. I'm talking to you, Trippie Redd. Seriously, what the fuck were they thinking with that last album? I'm glad he doesn't do that. Because I know I talked about mental health, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to dealing with issues that are heavier, issues that are some darker, I guess, it really can impact someone's life. I think it's kind of important to think that they are not overly commercialized.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that like Trippie Redd is immoral or anything. I don't know him. Obviously, I can't judge that. But for example, like if Migos makes club bangers every day and releases 30 songs, it's like, all right, that's strategy. If like if it becomes a trend where something as important as mental illness just being used for strictly commercial purposes, where you get like 40 tracks, and there's no originality, and then like you like it almost as if you're cashing in to that whole niche. Of course, no one can prove that, but there are instances where you really like suspect it. Like that's sus as fuck,
Yeah.
Props to Skinny Brown for not doing that, because a lot of rappers are doing that in Korea. Like not necessarily saying that they're cashing in for mental health, but a lot of artists that are trendy, I guess, they just slap too many songs together sometimes, and it's frustrating as hell. Can't get through the album, like as a person who has to review things. It's just, oh my god, why didn't you just cut half of these songs out?
Exactly.
Like that. And Skinny Brown had, not only was it a tight 8 tracks, but there was a nice variety in it too.
Agreed.
Yeah. Unlike you, Daniel, this wasn't mind blowing actually to me, but I thought it was overall a very varied, solid album that I would recommend it to anyone.
Oh, for sure. Hands down.
Yeah, and there are no trash bars on it.
No.
I mean, like, it's not like the lyrics are like Hemingway shit. It's not like super lyrical.
Of course. No.
But I think it is very important for rappers to not have corny bars.
Oh, for sure.
I have a serious allergy on corny bars.
Oh,
like,
same here.
It's like the song is great. Like the beats is bang, the flow is dope, and like I don't know, a rapper spits some stupid shit on a record. Like I just can't think of one. What was it? Young Thug. I had sex with my auntie and stuff. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Oh, like why? Like why did you say that? Why is no one around you saying no to that shit? Like, you dumb motherfucker. And Skinny Brown didn't do that. A lot of trap rappers in Korea are kind of catching on to the States rappers, like having trash bars on their records.
Yeah.
But Skinny Brown didn't do that. And that's great, actually. Like, this was a tight, compact, well thought out, technically proficient, varied, nuanced, thought through. I recommend this album, seriously.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let's just say it gets the message across.
Yeah, it gets the message across, and like, message aside, let's just take the message aside. The songs are good. That's what's important. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, hell, there are many records where the message is good, but the music is shit. This wasn't that. Like, although it wasn't like super into mental illness, I guess. It's still like he was actually serious about it when he talked about it. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
like everything I said until now, I think it just boils down onto that. Like he sounded passionate. He sounded serious about this. It wasn't like I'm doing this because it's trendy or stuff like that.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that was what's great about Skinny Brown's record. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Again, we hope nothing but the best for him moving
Yeah.
forward. He has a bright future. So,
Yeah.
what about you, Daytona?
I'm still conflicted. You know what? I'm going with the 2010 record. I'm going with
For
the
sure.
fourth album. 2010, Quiet Storm on Night record.
Whew.
This is an album that is significant when it comes to Quiet's discography. As everyone knows, 2011 was the period where Illionaire was formed, right?
Yep.
2010, he was still in Soul Company.
Mm-hmm.
And this record, however, this record is kind of a deviation from that Soul Company stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because until this record, like before, like records like The Real Me, Q Train, Music, he had a really dusty, like sentimental sound to his music.
Yeah.
This was when he began to like transition out of that. The sound is incredibly lush.
Yeah.
It will remind you of something like Rick Ross or Pusha T is gonna write on
definitely.
it, like Justice League kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're familiar with Justice League as hip hop producers, they have this tendency to make big records. Not big in the sense of like harsh trap shit, but super lavish, like strings coming in and stuff. You know, the whole luxurious ass vibe kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. With a little bit of soul and jazz into it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like Pete Rock where it sounds dusty and heavy, but it sounds super clean and pristine.
Yeah.
That's what he Quiet begins to do with this record. And this musical imprint is going to transition, this is when like he kind of makes this sound his own. He would go on to develop on this sound after like all of his consecutive records. Like the Ambition tape he released, his solo album when he established Illionaire. It's basically an extension of this sound. Just there's more trap beats in it. And even like records like Stormy Friday EP on 2011, Ambition 2013, One Life to Live 2015, Q Train 2 actually 2016, 2017 Millionaire Poetry. Like all of these records are extension of what happened here on this fourth record, 2010.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. The only difference is he doesn't have trap beats on here.
Yeah.
He still was working on a boom bap aesthetic, just different samples and how we mix these things.
It has more soulful sounds.
It's definitely more in your face too. Like it's more melodic in a sense.
Very
almost.
melodic. Yeah.
Yeah. He even sings on this record. He just straight up sings. Records like Be My Love.
I love that song.
I think some people will know this actually already. This is one of Quiet's most famous songs, I guess.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it has to be.
It has this really minimal funk beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a pristine quality to it, and the Quiet is singing like on a very mellow fashion on the song. Like a lot of Korean rappers were influenced by this to kind of, go that Drake route,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, kind of a little sing-along kind of vibe. And he pulled it off perfectly. Like, it's not like he is like mind-blowing vocal-wise. It's not like he's Whitney Houston or anything, but
no.
Yeah, but he's on key, at least. Like, he's on key. The melody is great. It's not like he's singing his ass off or anything, but it's not like where you have sing-song rappers that even, that has wrong keys and stuff, right? The Quiet isn't doing that. The Quiet actually, he's on pitch, and he knows his limits as vocally, so he never oversteps. So it comes down to a really nice, well-made vibing track, which is great. Yeah. The feature list is great too, actually.
Oh yeah.
There's
can't go wrong with that.
One of my favorite songs, Quiet songs, is number 4, Stars.
Oh,
with
dude.
Verbilage and it swings like, this was great.
Come on.
Like the whole atmosphere of this track is so rich. It's so detailed.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect for night writing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the entire record is focused on night. Like, the title says Quiet Storm,
Exactly.
a night record. Like, this is a night writing record. You throw this on when you're like jogging out and like after like at 10 p.m. or
even driving around.
Yeah, when you're driving around in like, I don't know, Namsan Tower or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is the music that's for that. It makes you feel like you have succeeded. This is like that Rolls Royce Maybach type of music.
Why not?
It makes you feel like Jay-Z. Seriously.
I can see that.
Yeah. Actually, that's a great comparison. There's two favorite records of all time. Like, not Korean hip hop, but hip hop in general. One is a record called Fantastic Damage by LP, which is completely up for another discussion. And the other one is actually Jay-Z's Black Album.
Ooh, classic.
Yeah, a lot of people prefer the Blueprint and Reasonable Doubt, but I think Black Album is where it's at. And this actually sounds pretty similar to Black Album in lots of ways. For people who are trying to get into this album, I guess, there's the Black Album has a track called Allure by Jay-Z. Pharrell produced it. That's the kind of sound you're going to hear on this album. Like this.
Agreed. Yeah.
If you know the song Allure, of course, that rich, luxurious, laid back vibe. How do you say this? In this gangster films where the protagonist is on some very high pitched tower. He's looking down at the city like he owns everything.
Yeah.
And the silhouette the shot kind of captures in from the back.
Yeah.
That's what this album feels like.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's exactly how this album feels like. And this in a way is transitional because he's not exactly talking about money on this record. But he's talking on a more boss type shit. Like before this album, he sounded more like a MC trying to make it. On this album, he's very proud of his achievements of what he has accomplished. Not just financially, but his status within the scene of how many people he has influenced. Like this is the album where he takes his boss persona. Like I'm a veteran, respect me kind of vibe. Yeah. And personally, I like this kind of Quiet better.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, because I think the Quiet's musical high points, his musical strengths are more accentuated when he's confident, when he sounds a little bit more laid back and chill. Yeah. Because there are many rappers actually when it comes to like super hard records, if we're being honest here, there is a lot of rappers that can out rap him. Like
for sure.
Yeah, there are many rappers that can Kendrick Lamar him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You like you know. But the Quiet doesn't have to do that. I'm not sure if he's even good at it, but the Quiet strength lies in when he's like really stacking rhymes and going through them on a very steady manner. And this is the record where he does that for the first time. Because before this record, he feels like he's really trying to out-rap his contemporaries. And it's not like saying that's bad, but it doesn't sound as good as his later records. And
yeah, agreed.
This is the start of the latter half of his career. So you have a perfect mix. I know a lot of people listening to this podcast probably will not like rappers talking about money. Right? You know, the trap shit.
True.
So with this record, you're going to get the lyrical focus of not actually talking a lot about money all the time.
For sure.
But you get the production of the money records. So it's like a perfect blend between the latter Quiet and the earlier Quiet. So, like, universally, there are two types of Quiet fans. The Quiet fans that like his previous material and Quiett fans that like his later material.
Yeah.
This is the album they both like.
Mm,
This is like the perfect middle ground. So if you're looking for that rich, meditative, but still luxurious kind of vibe, like this is your go-to. Whenever you're
for
out
sure.
at night, this is the record you turn to.
Facts.
Yeah, it's not like it's super intense either, so it's very easily listenable. You don't have to like always concentrate, I guess.
For sure.
But I mean, concentrated, like if you concentrate to this record, it still sounds great. If you don't concentrate on it, it still sounds great. So it's perfect for in-depth listening and both like surface level listening. So pop it on. Like this is that quiet record no one hates, I guess. So definitely check it out. I was conflicted about this too. Because
hey man, it's difficult.
I'm actually not going to focus on the artist in a sense. Of course, I'm going to talk about the artist, but I want to talk about a mixing engineer.
For sure, okay.
Because recently there were two albums that kind of many Korean fans liked. One is MODM by Khundi Panda.
Oh man.
And the other was Locals Only by Jayho.
Oh.
You heard Jayho? You heard the Locals Only record? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
They're completely different albums, right?
Oh, completely
different.
Yeah, because completely
Khundi
different.
Panda's album was super electronic and experimental. Anyone know Kenny Beats? Do you know Kenny Beats?
Yep, very good producer.
Yeah, it's kind of that. Like he had this project with Denzel Curry, right? Unlocked. MODM was our version of Unlocked.
Ooh,
but
yeah.
Unlocked was more of like an event record where MODM is actually like Unlocked concept fleshed out. Like MODM is a record that it's a concept record where Khundi Panda falls into a virtual space where he's in gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of uses it as a metaphor to kind of boast about how far he has come and stuff like that. It's a very smart way of doing it because as I just talked about it on the Quiett record review, it sounds pretentious a lot of the times. If you just brag about money, like it gets stale quick, I guess.
For sure.
Like unless you're like a Jay-Z who can like talk about the same thing in 50 different ways. Like not many people can do that, which means you have to shake up your subject matter.
For sure.
And two ways in shaking up the subject matter, you can really talk about different things. Or you can talk about the same thing, but in a very different angle. MODM does the second way. He talks about his success. He talks about his accomplished status in the game. He talks about how dope he is as an MC. But all of it is done with game metaphors, video game metaphors.
Which is very creative.
Yeah, it's like the moment you turn this record on, it feels like you're going into like a cyberpunk universe or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pento of Salon 01 has a production credit on it. Like, it feels super mechanical. Like, the album is very focused on electronic shit. Like, you can hear lots of, like, weird sound effects of, like, Mario, like, eating coins in games and stuff like that. Like, it's a very immersive record, but he's just basically talking about how he's great.
That's so sick.
But because it is so heavily conceptual, it feels like a completely different experience. There's lots of Korean memes, Korean game memes in the record too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if you look at the translations, you're going to pick up on those too, so it will sound great. There's lots to learn from this record despite its shallow subject matter, but the way Khundi Panda tackles that subject matter is so complex in a sense. But it doesn't sound complex, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right? So if you're looking for a more heavy-handed listen to MODM.
Yeah.
By Khundi Panda. MODM.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, highly recommend it. Seriously. I actually reviewed it on Instagram, so.
That album goes mad crazy.
And the other album I'm going to talk about is Jayho's Locals Only. Now, I'm not sure, Daniel. Are many K hip hop foreign fans like familiar with Legit Goons?
I don't think they're not too familiar, but I'm
Hmm.
sure there are people who are
Okay,
familiar with
that's
them.
actually great. Okay, let me introduce them, I guess. There's a collective called Legit Goons in
Mm,
Korea. Legit spacebar GOON. They're a collective that makes very acoustic inspired hip hop,
mm,
like neo soul, a little bit of PBR&B, kind of like early Chance the Rapper and Frank Ocean with a little bit D'Angelo in it, like
mm-hmm.
and Dilla, like that kind of vibe. And Jayho was one of those rappers in that crew that didn't make an album for 5 years.
Wow.
I think it was actually 5 years. Like people were like, "Where's the album, motherfucker?" Like it was sort of a meme, like Dr. Dre Detox
Mm,
stuff. Like, where's Jayho's album? I don't know. Like, where's Jayho's album? I don't know. Where's Jayho's
yeah.
album? And he keeps fishing on Instagram. So his fans are like, "Where's the album? Stop fishing, motherfucker, and make the album." But the weird thing is, I think his fishing kind of inspired him in a way.
Oh, interesting.
There's actually a track on here that's about fishing on the new record,
Okay.
and boy, it doesn't sound like it. Like the way he's writing that beat is so fucking sexy. Like, like seriously, it sounds sexy. There's this track called Huddlestone on Locals Only, and he's so smooth with it. Like the vibe, the beat is very sparse, like Voodoo era D'Angelo, where there's a very
Oh,
minimum level of instrumentation, so it's so smooth, slow
yeah.
tempo. But the way he's writing that beat is so I really don't have other words to say it. It sounds super sexy. It's like
Okay. Okay.
it's like it's like a better version of Currency, in my opinion.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But but he's talking about fishing.
Very interesting. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, why am I turned on by a record that's talking about fishing? Because it doesn't sound like he's talking about fishing. Like he's very subtle with it, but the words he uses, he's clearly alluding to fishing, but it doesn't sound like it's about
Huh.
fishing. Yeah.
Interesting.
And another thing about this record is this is where the link with Khundi Panda's MODM comes in.
Mm-hmm.
The album is filled with very acoustic, natural sounds. Like
Mm.
you feel like you're in like a jungle, or not a jungle, but more of a savanna type, where like the grass is tall and there's lions
Mm.
in the background, gazelles, stuff. It sounds like that. But he uses trap drums, and the mixing engineer did such a good job on this record that those trap drums feel acoustic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like it's like, like the rattling hi-hats and trap drums, like
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It sounds like actually someone played that shit.
Oh,
so
snap.
it's
No way.
so immaculately mixed. Like you can smell the grass at this trap beats.
Oh.
But yeah, it's really interesting. I never heard a record like this before. Um, and he has this kind of Kid Cudi approach on most of these albums.
Yeah.
Yes, on most of these songs. So it's like these humming, slow, chill melodies, but the beats are so detailed. Like it sounds simple at first,
Yo,
but
that's so true.
but the soundscape it presents is so detailed. Like on surface level, you're like, "Huh, this is a good song." But once you really begin listening to it, there are really different elements in the beats and
Mm-hmm.
production that really stand out. And that's props to Jayho and everyone, the producers involved and everything, but that is a crowning achievement of mixing engineering.
Yeah.
And uh you can like hear every element of the beat. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like you listen to like Radiohead records, completely different. Like going off of hip hop here, like everyone knows Radiohead, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what y'all people know, so maybe it sounds pretentious, but just had to make sure. If you listen to Radiohead records, the mixing is great, especially from the third album, from OK Computer. Like, it sounds great on surface level, but once you delve into it, like, you can hear every instrument without much effort. You know, it's like once you zoom in, like, you can still hear every instrument playing on its own, and it still makes sense. It still meshes together perfectly. That's what I call good engineering. That's what I call good mixing. And,
For sure.
Yeah. And Jayho's record, like I said, does that. And Khundi Panda's MODM record does that as well. Because if it's electronic focused, when an album is electronic focused and kind of hard hitting as Khundi Panda's recent album was, it kind of tends to, like, everything to bleed together and just become one big hot mess. Yeah. MODM doesn't do that. If you focus on MODM, like, you can hear every instrument. Like that like, that's the bass, that's the snare, that's the synth, like, and it all pops and nothing pops out too much. And that's what makes a great listening experience, in my opinion. Like, that's what great mixing is.
Facts.
And MODM and Locals Only was a completely different record musically, but it was mixed by the same engineer. His name is Da Chamsu. He's the mixing engineer of these two records. He mixed and mastered this album. He's kind of a famous engineer in Korean hip hop. And by far, I think, not by far, they're pretty skilled people, but I've never been disappointed with his engineering.
Okay.
Yeah, but these recent two records really made him stand out. Like,
oh, wow, okay.
Like, these two records were ambitious sound-wise in two completely different directions, and Najamsu nailed it on both records.
Wow.
This is what you call quality engineering, in my opinion. And I think these two records, Khundi Panda's MODM, and Jayho's Locals Only, like, these two records are examples of immaculate, well-processed ideas that meets great execution.
Okay.
Check it out, and you're not going to regret it, seriously. I'm actually going to review Locals Only tomorrow, so.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely check this out. If you're going for the chill vibe, go for Locals Only. If you're looking for something more hard and experimental, go for MODM.
For sure. Great choices.
Yeah, oh my god, it was such a shocking record, both of them. I love them, seriously. I'm like, wow. Najamsu killed it. Najamsu killed it on the boards. So, yeah.
Well, as we begin to slowly wrap up our show, as usual, is there any artist or tracks that you're currently listening to and would like to share or recommend to our listeners?
Didn't we kind of talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, we did, but I mean, just for kind of like the side thing, because I know we do listen to a lot of music, so I'm sure there might be another artist that you've been listening to. So
let's pick out the tracks that from the albums we reviewed, just one track.
Sure. Oh man. Again. Oh, you're asking such a simple but a tough question. Okay, fine. I'm just going to stick with Misfits from Skinny Brown. Misfits featuring Mello and Kid Wine. Dude, what more can I say about this song? You know, there are times when I listen to the song, like I said, I listened to the song 20 times. It might be even more, but every time I listen to it, I shed a tear. And this is not a joke. I genuinely just feel the emotions from the song. From Mello's very calm, very unique style of singing. And surprisingly, Kid Wine has vocals. As far as I'm concerned. Like, Kid Wine's vocals are actually pretty good. He actually had a song with Toil that was a ballad song. And Kid Wine was a vocalist on that. And I was just like, whoa, no way. And so from Skinny Brown's rap vocals to both Mello and Kid Wine's very soft, melodic, you know, tones, I was just so fascinated and encapsulated by the song. And it's just so relevant in today's world, man. again, when you go back to the idea of mental health, it's just this song defines, in helping those that are in need when it comes to, getting help and just getting like kind of like that support, and I think Skinny Brown hits it on the spot. So
if I'm correct though, I think Kid Wine has his own album, right?
Oh,
it's called
I love that album. Decanting.
Yeah.
I love that album. But for people, who are struggling or, is trying to find songs that'll help them, uplift their spirits. I highly, highly recommend Skinny Brown's, album, Barry Loves My Mood, and ultimately Misfits. I have nothing else to say about that song.
Yeah.
Nothing bad. Everything is just good, So highly recommended.
Like, just as a reminder, the 3 albums I talked about was the Quiett Storm, a Night record.
Right.
Khundi Panda, MODM, Original Saga, I think was the full title. And the third was Jayho's Locals Only. I'm gonna go with the first track on Locals Only.
For sure, okay.
Like, just because that was when I knew, like, immediately as I turned it on. Like, that's the first record. It's called Oh Darling.
Okay.
Like the capital letter O, and then it says Darling on the back. Like, that was when I knew, like, oh my god, this is something I've never heard before. Like, this is the acoustic trap I was talking about.
Yeah.
It sounds so natural. I never, like, these are trap drums you can hear on the Discovery Channel documentary or something.
Oh, wow.
Like, it sounds so like nature-ish.
I like that.
Yeah, so definitely check it out. Like, I think it will interest some of you people. Like, you might not like it, I guess, but you'll at least admit, like, this is pretty weird. If you don't like it, you'll say it's weird. If you like it, it's say, like, this is great. So, Jayho, Oh Darling.
For sure. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but please do comment and let us know what your favorite albums are. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please go and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms, and please give us that 5-star rating. If you want more K-hip hop contents, go check out Daytona's Instagram at MYK_Daytona for K-hip hop album reviews. And also follow our social media page at Seoul_Therapy. Thank you guys so much, and see you guys next time.
See you guys.
Peace.